Plath was born on 27th of October 1932 in Boston, United States. She was the daughter of scholarly parents Otto Plath and Aurelia Schober. As stated by Bloom, Plath had shown her interest in writing since the age of 8 years old, when she published her first poem in the Boston Sunday Herald. She continued to write for 7 years as a professional writer with more than 250 poems, 70 short stories, and at least one draft of a second novel. Plath committed suicide and was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital that morning of 11th of April 1963. In this critical review, 3 poems written by Plath will be analyzed, which are The Applicant, Munich Mannequins, and Morning Song. All of these 3 poems share the same theme of femininity, and this will be further discussed in this video. Femininity, as defined by Oxford Dictionary, is the fact or quality of having characteristics that are traditionally thought to be typical or suitable for a woman. For further explanation, Stats and Burke mention that the characteristics of women are passive, cooperative, and expressive. Plath's poetry mostly focused on darkness, the imagery of blood and violence that appeared to foreshadow her eventual suicide. According to Bloom, female critics, however, noticed the power of Plath's language in expressing dilemmas faced by women struggling for self-realization while endeavoring to conform to social expectations. Bloom's statement can be supported by Metcalfe, who mentioned Plath's expression of rage as a creative and dynamic way to explore feminine identity through the use of literary texts which represent reflective and personal accounts of the author's self-discovery.
The Applicant was written on October 11, 1962, and it was first published in the London Magazine on 17 January 1963. It is an important contribution to the debate over the role of women in conventional marriage, which first started to be seriously questioned in the early 1960s when she wrote this poem. The theme of this poem revolves around femininity and how women are treated as a perfect living doll on sale. The dolls are being promoted to the groom's candidate, which is men. There are a few evidences in the poem that can support the theme femininity. First, women are described as a plain pepper while men are given suits. Plain pepper are very fragile, meaning that women are fragile. The suits that were given to the men will act as a shield to portray masculinity. Second, woman is labeled as a tool or thing just to satisfy men's desire and lust. Once they have had enough playing with the doll, they will just throw it away. Third, the store will reopen and start selling another doll for the men to buy. The fourth one, women's tears are being used as another substance to make another doll, implying that women's tears are invincible and useless. There are a few past reviews that could prove my opinion on the theme of The Applicant. First, Maher 2014 said in the poem, women are portrayed as being helpless and merely looked upon as objects unable to shield themselves. Plath turns the attention to the female figure who assumes a stereotypical wife image. She is an automaton living only to supply her husband's needs. She is frequently referred to as it. The word it enforces the wife's non-identity and reveals her imprisonment in a scripted role. The next past review is by Clarissa in 2004. She said that Plath makes a caustic, satirical attack on the marriage institution by presenting like an application for marriage through a combination of interview and sales pitch. The mannequin or woman who is projected in this poem is a commercial property of her owner, she can be manipulated to the advantage of the seller, which is the immediate male members of the family, and that of the buyer, which is the suitor or prospector. The last past review is by Azadeh. He stated in his journal that poems like Daddy, Lady Lazarus, Kindness, Ariel, and The Applicant have an interrelation to express aspect of objectification of women and women's independence. In the poem Kindness, Plath reveals that women in society have little value. Plath attacks the expected society which women must conform to marriage, challenging the gender roles by satirizing the similar structure of marriage vows, and she tries to withstand it.
I'm going to review the poem titled Munich Mannequins. The theme can easily be expanded to the perceptions of women in general, especially in this female-dominated society. The idealizations of women created both by male perceptions and media during that period resulted in an obsession with perfection in female form. Thus, in early 1960s, the fashion models were referred as mannequins. The fact and quality of being a fashion model is perfection, which is having one of those ideal feminine body. This perfection to Plath is terrible, since by maintaining these perfect figures, the model have to sacrifice on the motherhood. And Munich is the second most famous federal state in Germany. In this poem, Plath referred Munich as the mark of Paris and Rome. Hence, the title of the poem is Munich Mannequins. Femininity in Munich Mannequin can be seen in the first line of the poem. To be a fashion model, they need to sacrifice their dreams to be a mother. Because in maintaining this perfect figure and holding the title of being a model, is they cannot have a children. The second point, in line 5 to 7, potentials of new life has been wasted when there is no fertilization occur because the body discard blood, it means no fertilizations occur. Last but not least, the third point is the how Plath illustrate the menstruation cycle of a woman by symbolizing it to the moon. There are several past reviews that has been done on this poem Munich Mannequin. First and foremost, from Kovac and Sari 2017, state that the attractiveness of the mannequin is largely due to their sterility, a beauty which contradicts the possibility of change. The formations or decay constitute the unattainable ideal of femininity in consumer culture. Next, from Clinton 1997. The poem is a portrait of mannequin in snow-drifted shop windows who represent artificial women whose perfection in beauty is accompanied by sterility and barrenness. Last but not least, review from Mitra 2016. Plath refers to the menstrual cycle as purposeless, since this woman, in the quest for perfection, will not be able to procreate.
The poem Morning Song was written by Sylvia Plath'S on February 1961 when she had given birth to her daughter. This is one of Plath'S domestic poems, not her typical protest poem, but with the typical denseness of meaning. The occasion of the poem is the birth of her first child. From the poem Morning Song, we could interpret that maternal feelings do not occur at once, which we can see in stanza 1, line 1, that the persona compared her child to a fat gold watch. She could be saying that as a mother who had just given birth to the child, she felt distance to the child, like looking at a mechanical thing. Secondly, the new mother's feelings of alienation is portrayed in stanza 2, line 6. We stand ground blankly like walls. This could portray that new parents are awkward or not used to having a child yet. Next, the awakening of the motherhood, the process of adjusting to and appreciating the baby, as in stanza 4, line 11 and 12, conveyed that the persona wakes to listen to the baby's breath and should put it into a far sea that moves in her ear. Lastly, the patriarchal expectations of the mother's response to a child's need could be seen in stanza 5, line 13 and 14. It conveys that the mother almost falls from the bed when the child cries, and the Victorian nightgown implies that these happened way back in the days where men are not expected to help with the tasks associated to women. For past reviews of Morning Song, Lisa Katz wrote that motherhood is depicted as technical sexual matter and a natural process which must be learned. There is an imagery of blurred borders and also an imagery of differentiation and reestablishment of borders. According to Alison Barrett, in 2017, she stated that Morning Song is a series of intricate comparisons which reveal the complicated difficulties of the mother-child relationship, and Plath perhaps intended to break the gender roles and pressure that the society forces on women and mothers. Lastly, Kuras Prada asserted that the poem fuses strongly with mother's demands. It attempts to combine and reconcile poetry and motherhood, and also showed a clash between maternal instinct and individuality.
Next, I'll review about the similarities and differences of Sylvia Plath's preferences in the poems that we have chosen, which were The Applicant, The Munich Mannequins, and Morning Song. First, the similarity that can be reviewed from the three poems is the theme used, which is femininity. In the poem The Applicant, femininity is shown through the women's attribution in marriage. This can be seen in stanza 3, line 12 and 13 in the poem that mention to bring teacups and roll away headaches, and do whatever we tell it. These lines convey that women's hand can do most of the things like bringing teacups and getting rid of headache. In the Munich Mannequins, femininity is conveyed when women who are models are referred to as mannequin. In stanza 1, line 1, and stanza 3, line 5, the lines imply wasted fertility and reflect the recurring cycle of menstruation, because models cannot reproduce in order to keep their figure. As for femininity in the poem Morning Song, it is connoted through motherhood, where the persona break into the stereotypes of a loving mother. This can be shown in stanza 3, line 7 that says, "I'm no longer your mother." Besides, stanza 5, line 13, in my Victorian nightgown also indicates a woman's natural feminine quality. Next, I'm going to review the differences from these three poems by Sylvia Plath, which is the roles that are possessed by the women in each poem. First, The Applicant portrays a woman as a wife in the poem. There are multiple usages of it, which somehow shows the objectification of women. This can be seen in stanza 7, line 34 and 35, and stanza 8, line 40. Next, women is portrayed as models or mannequin in the poem The Munich Mannequins. Stanza 8, line 15, which reads, "Intolerable without mind, show how society views women's body in the modeling industry as more valuable than their mind." As for Morning Song, woman is portrayed as a mother who is in preparation of adjusting to motherhood. It shows how the love for the child developed over time. In stanza 2, line 4, the child is referred as a statue, which is a non-living thing, and somehow developed in stanza 5, line 15, where the child is referred as a cat, which is a living being.
In conclusion, this critical review explains the similarities and differences shared by three poems written by Plath, which are The Applicant, Munich Mannequins, and Morning Song. All of these three poems represent the theme of femininity and are well described as women who are living in patriarchal nastiness. The differences can be seen by the roles of women shown in each poem. The Applicant portrays a woman as a wife, while Munich Mannequins illustrates a woman's body is more important than her intelligence, and Morning Song represents a woman's life as a mother. As stated by Wong, Plath's anger towards her father and husband is due to their failure in meeting her fantasized expectations, which forced her to write poems to express her anger. Nonetheless, Plath remains to be a phenomenal writer, with her writings that mostly cover emotional expressions like frustration and anger.